Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Live with LavaSub. I am LavaSub, but you can call me Weston. We're on week 11, I think, of this mask, and we're wrapping up. We started paint last week, and this has just been one of those projects for me that I'm just in love with it. I love every aspect of it. I love working on it. And every time I change something or move something around or add a color to it, I like it more and more. That doesn't mean I'm at the point where I'm like, I can do anything. It'll be fine. But I am at a place where I'm really comfortable with where I'm going with this mask. And I just want to remind you that I really appreciate anyone who's stuck around for this whole process. It's been a pretty interesting one. And I'm sure there's not a lot of people doing this kind of work right now. I haven't seen any other Twitch channels doing this kind of stuff, so it makes me glad that we're able to provide something that isn't already there. And I'm very happy to kind of have shared this process with you. It's been really fun. So I just want to go over my finalizing materials here. So last stream, we figured out that this crimson and this copper make a really lovely kind of dark red with a nice metallic hue to it. We have used this metallic gold paint for the tops and the eye sockets. And those are the materials we've used so far. I have another gold that's slightly more yellowy that I'm going to try out today. Probably just test it, maybe not use it. I have this silver that I'm going to probably apply to some places because I'm really liking the kind of metallic elements of it, bringing out this kind of robot vibe. We've got this nice dark green, this nice light blue, and this purple, kind of a lavendery hue. I'm also going to be using my super heavy gloss. I'm going to be using my black lava medium. And then I've got also all of my wonderful palettes that I'm going to be using today. Probably not even using that many of them, probably continuing my painting process. But it's good to have them around, especially because of the ability to apply texture in a case where this is texture will be paramount in trying to finish and finalize the look of this mask. We've been working on texture so hard that a lot of that texture is just going to come through from the previous layers. But it's not going to hurt to be able to, like I said a moment ago, modify, change things, especially where this the wand is concerned that holds the mask. I've done almost nothing with that so far, so we're probably going to get into that. I think that's where a lot of the silver, a lot more of the gold is going to go. Try and maybe give this the word I'm looking for. A kind of wand appearance, something very grand, potentially magical. Other than that, it's been an interesting month so far. In personal life, I know last week I was complaining a lot about the 8 or so leaks or whatnot that are coming from our common room where I usually am doing my streams from in our apartment. Secrets out, my office is a living room. But I'm coming to you today from our dining area, which is a little bit of a change up. So if you see anyone behind me, that's very likely my partner or our roommate. All really wonderful people. Sorry about the slight inconvenience here, but you don't care. If you're watching, you probably don't care. So I was complaining a lot about that. And then literally the day after, or 2 days after the last time I streamed, there was a fire in the apartment building. Very sadly, someone pass. It was just a couple doors down from us, so we woke up at around 9 a.m. or so. I think I had already been up for a little bit, but basically we get a lot of false alarm, fire alarm poles in the building. So when it started going off around 9, I was just like, oh, whatever, it's nothing. Until I started hearing people running around the building, which, you know, it's not super uncommon during the alarms for some people that kind of get freaked out. But yeah, the more I kind of waited and listened, the more I realized was going on out there. And someone starts running around, pounding doors, telling everyone to get out. So, yeah, it was pretty intense. I opened the door and smoke pours in. I got my partner, my roommate, prepared for the news, and to get out of here, we grabbed a couple of things and we left. And luckily, you know, our building or our unit is fine, but sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot to turn my do not disturb on my phone so I don't get calls in the middle of the stream. Do you hear me? All right, cool. But yeah, a couple of the units close by ours are currently, you know, without a place to sleep here. They're comfortable homes that they've probably lived in for a while. So it was, and of course the sad loss of life. Pretty intense. You know, me and Kat were victims of the fires up north a few years ago. I think it was like 2017. We were living in Sonoma County, and I don't want to get into all the details because some of it, very much of it, is not my story to tell in this way. I will tell you that, yeah, it was a very tragic kind of moment for a lot of people, especially, you know, a lot of people who lost everything and have been rebuilding for, you know, years at this point to get to a point where they have somewhere resembling the home they once had. So we have some trauma over those fires, and it definitely put us in a weird place for the last week. With everything else already going on, you know, it's kind of hard to even get out of bed most days. But that's just the way it is sometimes. And, you know, I can try and look at some of the positives when I'm feeling down. You know, luckily there wasn't more people out in the street. There wasn't more people who were whose lives were lost in the fire. It reconnected me to one of my oldest bestest buds, my dad's guitar that he gave to me. It was his guitar from when he was an old hippie in San Francisco back in his wild days, and survived through all of mine as well. And it's the one thing that I thought to grab when we were running from the apartment. I left everything else but that, and yeah, reacquainted me with this old friend of mine. Sorry to start off the pod so heavy. Or the broadcast so heavy. You know, it's just been a lot for the last week. I wanted to let you all know where I'm at, give you an update, and yeah, be transparent, be vulnerable here in this platform because you know it's a lot of it just performance, and I am a performer, and while I am performing a version of myself to you right now, I'm still a person, and I still want to portray myself in a genuine way to you. It's something I have thought about a lot. So, thank you all for being here, for your support, and for coming to watch me work on my art. One of those things that brings me comfort and joy, and helps me through these periods of dark times. It always has, and will likely be exactly the kind of healing I'll be doing my whole life. It's more than art. Art's never going to just be one thing for me. It's a confluence of different reasons for doing it. That has been one of the only things that helps me during the course of an interesting life. Yeah. Yeah. So I apologize if I haven't done a whole lot of trying to hawk our items to try and stay in the building in the last week. But as I mentioned, it was pretty hard to do anything. You can find quite a bit on my Instagram if you're looking. And I'll be back to that very soon. Luckily, I think we are pretty much in the clear for this month. We've made enough and gotten enough assistance from our friends and families that I think we're going to be okay this month. So we're now working towards. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so now we're working towards March and still looking for work and other ways that we can make money. So any support would be massively appreciated. You can find my links below where my talking head is. But without any further ado, let's fucking paint. Yeah, have a lovely week. So I've thought quite a bit about this, not necessarily in a couple of days. So I'm just reacquainting myself with where I want to go here. Had a lot of thoughts. I keep this in an area where I do pass it frequently in my day-to-day, so that I'm not able to forget, essentially. Oh, pardon me. But yeah, so I tend to look at it at least a little bit each day and think about what I want to do with this. So yeah, I've got some ideas. And you'll notice there's a couple of new colors that I showed you earlier. It's that light blue and this purple. Because I keep thinking about ways to almost use them like to bring out certain almost elements of nature. I really liked this, how this gold and the kind of dark copper color were coming across, bringing elements of not just the minerals of Earth, but also the almost kind of thinking about like the texture and color of trees and of wood. And on this face, I see so many different elements. So much different potential ways to go with it. Really maximizing the different elements of it, but my brain wants to do all of it. So I want to bring out this element that is almost like we've been talking about, kind of mantis-like elements that are kind of alien, which I think, we could argue back and forth whether that's the same thing or not, but yeah. And this element of nature and beauty. And also things that are materially valuable, gold and things of that nature. valuable or rare minerals. I think it's really interesting I've come to this place with this mask because of where I'm at in life, financial trouble and having a hard time kind of embracing the natural side, living in a big city. This feeling of being small like an insect, and distant like some kind of extraterrestrial. So I think it's interesting because, as I've told you, I didn't do any pre-planning into making this mask or its shapes. This was kind of just coming out of me, allowing it to kind of just form naturally. And I think it's interesting that's where it's come to, or even maybe just how I'm interpreting it. I don't know. What do you think? I started talking about the colors and forgot what I was doing. Yes. So I keep thinking about, how in nature often you'll see creatures that use color to dissuade attacks as a self-defense mechanism, and on an evolutionary scale. I keep thinking about the blue and the purple being used in such a way. Like, not in the more obvious, like, highlights or whatever, where the exterior is coming to a peak, but more where it sinks down into valleys that usually you would provide shadow to, using these bright colors to almost like subvert how you're supposed to use them. Not in any intentional way, just in a way that I have seen a lot of. I've seen in nature before, almost obscuring the structure of the face or the body to make it look bigger or sharper or more intimidating. I think it's really beautiful how nature and evolution works in such a complicated and almost just difficult to understand ways, that those kinds of changes manifest generation to generation on scales of hundreds, thousands, millions of years. Uh, so yeah, I also know that I want this texture. Texture is the other thing I was talking to you about. I've applied a little bit of a tester down here on the cheekbone. I don't know if you can necessarily see it, but right underneath this cheek, I've applied a little bit of that black lava medium. That is essentially just adhesive and black and gray glitter, pretty sure. But it does have a certain texture to it, and it does play on the eye very well, in a similar way that the metallic colors do. So, yeah. I'm gonna do a little tester of this light blue. I keep looking at it, and I keep thinking about what I might do with it. I have a couple of ideas. I don't have much of this paint left, so I'm trying to be really light with what I'm using as a tester. I'm going to apply it in the back first. Interesting. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Alright. I'm kind of liking it. Still don't have a clear idea of what it's going to look like once it's applied in the way that I'm thinking of applying it. But I think it'll be okay. I'm still planning on mixing up another batch of that green to cover some of the places where I kind of travel outside of where I want the colors to go. Haven't put that plan into action yet, but it's definitely on the horizon. Getting closer and closer every minute. You ever just get obsessed with a song that you wrote like 10 years ago? Something I've been doing lately. A lot of my old songs, I kind of forget the words to them. It's been so long since I performed music. And even like a lot of the songs I was doing with Boilermaker, my old band, were songs that we wrote for that band and not songs that I was doing at like open mics for a long time. I mean, I did open mics in my day. Back in Sonoma County, that was like for a few years there, that was just kind of what I did. I was always at the open mics. I would go to 3 to 5 a week. And in a lot of ways, it was one of the most productive times I ever had as a songwriter. I don't necessarily love a lot of the stuff that I wrote back then. I don't think anyone absolutely thinks that the stuff they were writing about 10 or 15 years ago were really great things to write about. Sorry, but some of them are solid. And I think about kind of dusting some of those off and going out to an open mic at some point, but haven't really caught the motivation to do it yet. I think it's coming, but everything's kind of crazy right now, so not this very second. But yeah, thinking about the song that I wrote a lot in the last couple of days. Getting out that old guitar, I wrote so many of those songs on it. I wrote so many of those old songs on that guitar that it's just, I mean, the moment I'm looking at it, I'm kind of reminded, of all those hours I spent, days I spent writing songs on it. Yeah, sometimes it's a lot, especially because a lot of those songs I wrote when I was during my period of severe alcoholism. But I'm not proud of much I did during that period of my life. I look at it as you can't change the past, obviously. You can only learn from it and all that. So I try and use it as an example. I'm trying to remind myself when maybe I'm feeling a little big for my britches, that everybody's working through something, See what happens to this medium once it's mixed with color. I'm not actually sure what's going to happen in a second here. We might have to add more color back into it, which I don't really want to do yet. It's going to end up being wasted paint because I'm only going to need a little bit of each color here. I don't got Bob Ross sponsorships, you know. Someday. Not yet. You know what? I think this is actually going to work great. Both those mediums are pretty, what's the word? Transparent. They're not like super, like the heavy gloss is really white. Definitely has like a opacity to it that makes mixing it kind of difficult sometimes. Always having to kind of correct your color to account for how much whiter it looks. As you may remember from some of the early streams for this mask, where I kept having to remix color because it ended up too white. But, you know, that's exactly what we're doing here. Every project that I ever do, I'm learning something. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a weird year, you know. I mean, for a lot of us, this has been a wild start to the year. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens, right? Do I want to dry brush this on? I think so. These are my watercolor brushes, so it should be okay. Too much paint. I might need a little water now that I'm looking at this. Interesting. Just a drop. Just a drop of water here. Help make the paint go a little bit smoother. Yeah. Oddly, in this case, water is helping the distribution of the paint, though it is coming off a little more gray than I wished. Might add a little bit of this blue back in. Yeah. Exactly what I didn't want to do, but I think it's necessary. Yeah, I mean, here, I'll show you. You can see this larger pile is the blue I mixed up already, and that much brighter one is right next to it is the blue I just applied to the palette here. Might even add a little drop of white. So I don't know if that'll help it being coming out so gray. Even busted out my keyboard the other day. Barely play the keyboard anymore. I did for a while. It's never like my instrument, you know. Never really knew what I was doing. It was just fun. And I know how to make, you know, really simple one-hand melodies. There's the old keyboard I had is actually, I think, an old Casio that had like all of the cool like 80s 90s synth sounds on it. So it's got a lot of really interesting yeah, sounds available. All of them a little dated. but good. I always forget how much I like playing it. I'm just not very good at it. Which, obviously, it's not the point. At least for me. Being good at art has never been the point. In fact, I have argued, and I think even on this stream I've argued before that art is good or not is entirely subjective. There's no objectively good art. It doesn't exist. That's all just opinions. I'm one of those people. But yeah, when it comes to keyboard, it was always just yeah, we did this back in the Boilermaker days. We did a couple of songs where I played keyboard, and all I was really doing was adding like a certain level of tension. Like there was this song Zach wrote about like kind of from the perspective of Odysseus fighting the Cyclops. Really cool song. And it was just so cinematic, I didn't want it to just be like one of our, you know, aggro punk songs. Not that we were like just a, you know, any average garage punk band. You're always doing weird shit, but yeah, that's why it was I felt comfortable, going and grabbing the keyboard and putting it on one of the funky, weird synthesizers, and adding that level of kind of drama to it, to our little punk songs. One of my favorites of ours. Huh. It's a little better now that it's kind of gotten a couple layers on there. Yeah. I'm going to go under the nose with this too. Like I said, I'm trying to find those areas where you would normally throw shadow if you were drawing this in 2 dimensions, and instead adding kind of another bright color. In this case, a brighter color that, or not necessarily brighter, but a bright color that isn't even very contrasting with the color that's already on there. I wanted to see kind of how that would affect our perception of it, like how the how that would affect our eyes ability to find depth in a typically 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional figures, and see what happens. Luckily, this is all just acrylic paint. It's not super hard to remove or paint over. It's not going to affect if there's something I don't like, it's not going to affect the final. You can just kind of have fun. Especially after all that we've been through with this piece so far. What happens when I mix silver into this? Oh. Definitely still gray, like even grayer. Actually, the interesting thing about this silver is that it's almost like it's got it's like hints of brown in there. A better way to put that. That's, yeah. Kind of like, it's not like a super bright white kind of silver. It's a very dark silver. Yeah, warm. Thank you, Sam. A warm silver. Holy shit. See what this looks like. Let me go on the back. So I watched. Me and Kat have finally finished both seasons of White Lotus. I don't know if any of you are watching, but wow. That show is a lot better than I was thinking it would be. I just saw like I don't remember what made me think this because it was wrong, very wrong. But my brain was like seeing the covers and all the coverage of that show and thinking this was like, you know, something trying to cash in on the popularity of Euphoria by doing another thing with a bunch of attractive people, very sexy and, you know, kind of thing. But it wasn't. I was not prepared for the level of like, I don't know if you could call it satire necessarily. But the show is almost exclusively centered around very rich white people. And yeah, there's a certain amount of like at least social critique in there. I don't think it's necessarily like something they're going into writing it like hyper specifically, but it's definitely in there. And yeah, it's really good. Super surprised by it. You know, it was definitely one of the better written shows I've seen lately. Me and Sam were talking before the broadcast about the last episode of Willow, what I thought about it, and I know that I assumed that Sam and Patrick really enjoyed it. I didn't want to like dump all over it. Yeah, I didn't like it. Suffice to say, it made me really upset. The last few episodes of that show were, well, bad. I think starting with the, I'm gonna go back and rewatch it because I don't know if I'm able to like, if I was able to really give it a chance after the whole enslavement narrative thing. That really threw me through a loop and made it hard for me to even like watch the show, let alone judge it fairly. And I think that there's definitely critique that needs to happen there in a very public way. Because yeah, I mean, I think at this point still, Nerdcrafty is the only channel that has anything critiquing that aspect of that story. And that is, you know, fucking what, 3-4 weeks later? Yeah, because that was episode 5, I think. Yeah, so unfortunately, you know, we're not going to be doing any more of the ignore the bird for a minute. You know, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to actually jump back into it at all. Hopefully, Sam and the crew will want to continue, but I don't know. You know, I don't want to be an old curmudgeon on the internet complaining about something that everybody kind of likes. You know, I think unless I'm doing it in a hyper specific way that is a lot more probably akin to like a video essay if it's something that I'm really interested in doing. And I definitely am not ready to do anything like that yet. I've thought a lot about doing. I mean, video essays are something that I really enjoy, and BreadTube is something that I usually start my morning with. So it's something that I enjoy quite a bit. So I've been thinking about doing my own kind of like video essay channel for years at this point. I just, it takes a lot of effort, like to do it well, and I don't want to just put something out there that isn't as good as it can possibly be. I mean, what I do know is that I have pretty specific to me kind of takes, and watch a lot of stuff that not a lot of people are watching for analysis. but it's something that my brain doesn't necessarily turn off. Like, there are certain things where, like Marvel movies almost specifically, where I can just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going in this to just turn off my brain and try and be entertained for a couple of hours. And even then, like, you know, I could be like, it's fine, I enjoyed it, basically to anybody who, you know, is curious, but have my own very specific kind of like, well, actually kind of takes that I don't tend to share because no one wants to hear it. Sadly, you know, I think that's the issue I tend to run into, is the fact that, yeah, I might have like opinions that I think are valuable and I would like to share them, but very infrequently is that kind of analysis and my enthusiasm for it returned in any kind of way that makes it feel justifiable or even wanted. Um, so yeah, all this to say that White Lotus was really, really well written. I thought they did a really fantastic job at doing a big ensemble piece in a fairly short amount of time, especially for modern TV, and telling these pretty complex stories with these pretty complex people that were like probably some of the best. I mean, my experience of watching the show was like watching a horror film, in a way that a lot of dramas don't really achieve, in a way that feels like justifiable, you know? A lot of the time, to get that feeling out of an audience, filmmakers and writers tend to go really hard into like extreme traumas that people might endure, to drive a very different version of that character out of them. But White Lotus is really smart in that it uses fairly commonplace, mundane, kind of everyday pain and trauma that we go through, but that aren't like hard to watch, aren't like so incredibly severe in nature that you kind of want to turn away as an audience member. At least I do. You know, I've been through enough, frankly. But yeah, I'm just remembering, like, specifically, I think in season 2, the Aubrey Plaza, her husband and the other couple that follow him around, their story arc is so brilliantly told, so incredible, like in the way that it. And of course, there are pretty heavy issues that are pretty heavy moments in those shows, but yeah, I think they do both with incredible kind of dexterity that yeah, I don't see very often. Um, like that same season, the only returning character, Jennifer Coolidge's, can't remember the character name, but yeah, that whole uh, story arc was really intense and had obviously some really kind of tragic moments in it. But I think at least in part because of Jennifer Coolidge's portrayal, it is so funny. It is like, it's absurdism. It's so over the top while still like the characters are over the top. They're allowed to be over the top within a story that is grounded in reality because they exist literally in a different world than us. You know what I mean? People who are living a rarefied version of existence because of wealth. You know, that's kind of like, I mean, that's almost the entire point of that scenario, which I thought was really beautiful, really well done. And way to make me love a billionaire. Holy shit. I mean, Jennifer Coolidge. No, I guess she had half a billion. That was her family, shipping magnate family's inheritance or whatever, her inherent wealth. But like that character was just so relatable for me as a mentally ill lover of the queers. You know, I think that her portrayal of that character was you know, just so perfect. Like, she's great in everything. And I think a lot of people I heard talking about her, like, you know, she does kind of the same character and everything. And I want to push back against this publicly. Like, her character in Party Down is in no way the same character as the one in White Lotus. So shut up. You've never been an actor. Other than in everyday life. Which we all do. But she's so good. So no shit talking Jennifer Coolidge on this live stream. You'll catch a ban. I don't really care that much. But she is really good. And that show is so solid. Yeah, and Steve Zahn, like, can we let Steve Zahn fucking stretch, bro? Can we let the man live? I swear to God, every time that guy gets to do anything remotely dramatic, he fucking kills it. And then, you know, he gets typecast again for another, like, a decade. And it's so frustrating. I want him to work. I want him to work regularly, and I want him to be everything he ever could be, which is a lot more than they let him do. Give Steve Zahn his due his due. Give him his due. Yeah, that show is filled with incredible performers. And I hear the next season, Mike White said in one of the wrap-ups he was going somewhere Eastern. So, if you know any casting people for the White Lotus, my Arabas wants in. Kept thinking, like, of places where it would be really, really silly for them to set the next one, like Dubai, and I think Jeddah was another one that I thought of. I think setting it in Saudi Arabia would be absolutely batshit, but that's kind of the batshit things that show almost would do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, uh, yeah. I would love to be in that show. Are you kidding me? So hook it up. I'll audition. I'm confident my abilities are good enough that I'll get in the show if they let me audition. Don't gatekeep this opportunity from me, industry. We should cancel the film industry. They've been gatekeeping a career for me for over 3 decades now. Definitely should just cancel them. I don't think they're going to change. They've shown no signs of being interested in rehabilitation, okay? Cancel the film industry. Alright, well, I don't love it, frankly, but I don't necessarily hate it. Ooh, got a little drippy. Come here, Drippy. Get off of there. I don't want you there. I'm gonna let that dry for a second, just think for a moment about what I want to do next. I think I'm doing the thing that I avoided before sculpting, which was not wanting to do anything with the mouth because it's hard and I am scared. But yeah, I keep looking at it and thinking, what am I gonna put on there? Am I gonna make it like because here I'll show you. If I show you while I tell you that you see how dark it gets now that it's this thick in my eye sockets. So it's not going to be really easy for me to kind of relieve that, right? Like that's going to be an issue whenever I wear this mask. The eyes are going to be these almost like dead, dark holes. You can barely kind of see anything inside past into the eyes, where we tend to focus as people when we have conversations. You know, you're talking to someone. What are you looking at? You looking at their eyes? Some of you, a lot of you. Many of us, our eyes tend to not be able to do that very good because of anxiety and things. But yeah, that tends to be the focal point of a person's face. When you're thinking about them, when you're talking to them, when you're looking at them, you tend to go to the eyes, like unless you're like thirsty and you're looking at specific features that turn you on. That's a different thing, and I need you to understand that. Yeah, but eyes tend to be the focal point of the face. And because we're not going to be able to see the person's eyes while they're wearing the mask under or in the face, and looking at two dark, deep holes that are just it's more frightening than you want it to be. So I almost want to do like a copper, like that. This kind of red, dark copper on the lips, mixed with some of this kind of lavendery color for highlight. I think that might be really nice. Um, Maybe I would just do purple. I don't know. What are your thoughts, audience? What do you think? I'm gonna drink some coffee. hmm It's like it says light violet. I guess I could put it next to my face to give you a better idea. Man, there's really not a ton of paint in there. I could just put it closer. That makes more sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Next to this very kind of like deep red copper. hmm Oh, totally. Um, yeah, I think like ultimately that's as intended, right? I think maybe maybe the copper instead should be like as I was thinking about the red copper to like add that kind of like deep red lip that um, like my brain's thinking of as regards to lips. But what if it was instead the yellowy gold mixed with even more yellow? And the purple is the darker tone, whereas the gold is the highlight. I think that might be interesting too. Not entirely sure. I do know that this blue is drying up pretty quickly. I'm going to get more paint on the area under the nose. Hopefully this stuff dries pretty fast. So it's not been too much wait time in between layers, but it is actually making it really hard to keep this paint around without it drying out. Oh, you know what I should do? I should grab a squirt bottle. Hydrate the paint from the top. I'll do that in a second. Where you're going, you can leave. I don't want no step back. Ask me like the red hawk. I won't love me, yeah. I shout out like the morning star. I'll never bend my knee. Are you getting any background noise, Sam? Just checking. Okay. Thought I would ask when I was being quiet, because there's a giant fan behind me and out the door that I can definitely hear, even though I've got the headphones plugged into my ears. Good, good, good. Might need to grab a different brush. This one doesn't like this paint. Keeps like adhering to the paint. That is not the jam. I need a short, stubby little guy. Nice firm ripples. Ah, short and stubby. Here we come. Oh yeah. That's gonna be less annoying. Or just annoying in a different way. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go get my spray bottle so that paint doesn't keep drying out. I don't think I can reach it with my headphones, so I'll be right back. I've known many martyrs, I've known kings of Crete. I know that when you gouge my eyes, you're beautiful. I'm just a little bird, reaching out for love. The pretty girls all run from me whenever I do come. I'm just a gentle corpse, reaching out for love. It's like accidentally doing a wash over there. We talked about wash last week, right? I was talking about my buddy Charlie. His really cool minifigs that he paints himself. I think that's what I was talking a little bit about that last week. Yeah, go check out Charlie Castle Miniatures if you're on the Instagrams. Not sure if Charlie is doing commissions right now, but it wouldn't surprise me. Not to mention just being a very kind and helpful human being. If you weren't looking for a commission, Charlie might give you some advice if you are into painting minifigs and I'm gonna do stuff as cool as he does. I ask him questions about painting a lot of the time. He's not like, I don't think Charlie's done he might have done canvases when he was younger. I don't think that was like ever going to be like a thing he was into. I don't know. But fucking super talented either way, right? Especially just thinking about minifigs, it's like, how do you even, you need to buy like whole specialized kinds of brushes and shit? I don't even know, man. My hands shake too much as it is. Hate to see what I do to minifigs. Makes sense. This blue just now. Okay. Okay. Tried something different with the lighting today. How's it looking over there? Good. What about like here? Put a white plastic bag over the light I've been using. Yeah, exactly. I've been on a film set. Are you kidding me? I know. I know a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've talked about it on stream before. My theater department was very, very, very low budget, self-produced kind of stuff. Um, these funky, janky little tips and tricks are all I got. It's interesting. I talked a little bit about old songs earlier, but I've been actually I've written like in the last couple months I've written like 3 or 4 new songs. Not I haven't put music to them yet. I've written lyrics for like 4 new songs, which kind of feels like it's the end of this very long writer's block I've been having as a musician. Um, writer's block as a musician is probably the most blocked up I get as a creator of art or artist or whatever. I don't know what necessarily it is. I think mostly it's that. I mean, I would say it's mostly technique. I don't know, how to do a lot of things on with music. Like I'm not like I never learned theory and stuff like that. I don't know any of that shit with any of the other arts I do, so I don't know why that's a good excuse for me. I don't know. Like most of my like artistic output is the learning process. I've taught myself how to do all of the arts that I've done. Acting, I guess you could argue that no, but I've been doing that so long, I don't remember any of the instruction I've been given. Are you shitting me? Um, it's just a thing I've been doing since I was old enough to remember that I was doing things. You know what I mean? But I don't know what it is with music. I've been playing since I was 16 or 15, um, which is over half my life at this point. But yeah, I in a similar way to acting or to art, to painting and things like that. And I don't know any of the techniques or like technicalities of it. I didn't go to school for this. Um, so like, why do I get blocked up with that in ways I never get blocked up with painting or with acting? It's really weird. Um, I think a lot of that is just music is so easy. Not easy. Obviously, easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Um, what am I trying to say? It's emotional, you know? In a similar way to that acting is very emotional art form. So is music. And maybe I think for some of the like kind of songs I used to write, a lot of the time they would just kind of come to me, like the free associative kind of way that I make all of my art. I would just start with a phrase I liked, and I'd be in the shower or something like that, and I would come out and write down that line. I would sing it over and over again, and by the time I got out of the shower, I would have a verse or maybe more. Um, and yeah, I don't necessarily. Uh, it doesn't always happen, for me. Especially like going to sit down and write things. Like when we were in Boilermaker, I finally got to a point where I could like sit myself down and be like, you know how this is supposed to go. You kind of have a melody in mind. Just kind of work with it. Go at it. And it took a lot longer. Um, but I was able to do things as a songwriter that I wasn't able to do solo. Really focus on like storytelling, performance. Like we did this song called. We did a lot of songs. Like I was telling you about the Odysseus song. Um, I like Zach sang most of that song, but I had my own verse that I came in on and was the Cyclops. I had like this whole characterization, this different way of singing that I did specifically for that character in that song and no other place. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting time. I was able to do a lot of different things as a an artist with other collaborators around, especially ones with very different tastes than I'd have. And we all had plenty of bands, and each of us agreed, yeah, those bands rule. But so much of our taste is so specific to who we are um, that, yeah, I think anybody could tell that we were just, we weren't like a band that got together because we were all like, oh, we're all really good at X, Y, or Z instrument, or this guy's really good, let's get him in the band or whatever. It was like, Boilermaker is just like four of my oldest friends. Me and Zach, who've known each other since sixth grade. Dan, I've known since I was 3. Darren, I met, when he was 16 or 17, maybe 18. I think he was 18 by that point. And I don't remember though. I met him so long ago. I was just a couple years older than he was. He was finishing up high school, and I was like kind of losing interest in dropping out of college. But yeah, when we started Boilermaker, we'd known I and Kat, who I'd known the least longest, but was my romantic partner at the moment. Like, you know, um, but yeah, so 4 of my oldest, bestest, all getting together to play music. All of us with very different tastes, and uh, yeah, really interesting time. And anyway, I'm just saying that I was able to focus a lot more on like storytelling and performance because I no longer had to think of how the songs go together and how to transition and all of that stuff that usually takes up big chunks of my brain. Um, pardon me. But yeah, after Boilermaker, yeah, I didn't really write music anymore. It had been a really long time since once that band broke up. Well, broke up. Zach moved to Oregon, um, and yeah, I can't remember the next song I wrote honestly after that. But none of them have ever been performed publicly. And most of those songs would be instrumental if they were anything, you know. Got to this point where it was like really hard to put melody to music that I was playing, and as well as like I think transposing different rhythms was something that we got really into with Boilermaker. It's like transposing one rhythm on top of another, and I would do that fairly frequently with how I was coming in as with my vocals. So I had this very specific way of doing a lot of my songs when I was just doing acoustic singer-songwriter stuff by myself that helped me hold that rhythm really clean for the length of the song. Um, and I could kind of just like put it in the back of my mind and not think about it. But once we were at a Boilermaker, suddenly all of that the stuff that came to me easy no longer made sense to me to write as a writer. So it was like a whole new journey, learning how to play music almost for the second time. You know, um, yeah. Lately, they've just been coming to me, like I was in the shower the other day and I wrote this song. God, that's right, Anarchist My Pussy. That was the hook. Um, One tall, long, bearded man, Anarchist My Pussy. Yeah, just silly little punk songs that just come out of me while I'm in the garage or in the shower. Which actually feels great. It feels nice to be doing that again. And like, I don't know what is putting me in that headspace that's like just making these songs fall out of me, but I miss my short, silly little punk songs that like, yeah, so I'm glad it's happening again. That's all. Yeah, I guess I need to start looking for at least I mean, ideally I would hopefully be able to start a whole new band and get a band going down in Los Angeles, although that's a huge time commitment I don't know if I can do right now. But it would at least, you know, bare minimum, start doing some open mics again, start meeting some people in the music scene down here, and, you know, go from there, you know. I mean, I know a few musicians down here, but like I said, it's a huge time commitment. Even just doing open mics is. But um, yeah, I don't know. I also tend to put a lot of pressure on myself for those kinds of things. So it's not just like a time commitment. It's also like a commitment of my own, like mental and physical energy and well-being that I have to take into account. Um, yeah, I miss performing. I don't know. This is the most I perform these days, especially because we haven't played D&D in a while. I know Zach's been uh, trying to get back on his feet. Buy some Iron Heart shirts from us at Nerdcrafty. You can the link should be available. It's from our Streamlabs. So um, yeah, uh, all of the proceeds buying the Iron Heart shirts go right to Zach, helping him out of this funk he's in, and will just mean that Iron Hearts are back faster. So good for me and good for you. In other words, yeah. Um, So I haven't really, yeah, I haven't been performing a lot lately. And that is usually not good for my mental well-being. Um, so gotta find something something to do that gets me back in that in the swing of things. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Jeez, it got dark quick. What time is it? Oh, okay. Cool. Can't wait until it's sunny until like 10 o'clock at night again. I hate this shit. I gotta be honest with you guys. I wouldn't lie. I really hate this shit. I'm gonna have to move to like an artificial environment where it is constantly like 85 degrees or 90 degrees, and I just need to move into a lizard cage. I like started saying it and realized what I was talking about. Where it's like 90 degrees all the time, not super humid, but not completely dried out either. And it never rains. It's always sunny. Uh, and there's like bright sunlight from 5 a.m. to midnight. And then I will be happy. Completely artificial environment. I keep saying I'm gonna move to like the equator or something because I think that would be better, but also no, it would not. If you know how the sun works and things. I need to live in a fantasy world that does not exist yet, but I will create in my own mind and live there. I hate it here. I'm just an extraterrestrial that doesn't belong on this planet. That's the thing. Yeah, I do not belong on this planet. I don't like it here. Um, I will continue living out of spite, though. Do not expect me to go anywhere. You want to talk about Andrew Callahan? I love Channel 5. And I thought Andrew Callahan was probably one of the like best reporters we had in a lot of ways. Um, I think it's a loss for us culturally. What happened with those all of the allegations against him? Like, I also think that it's it's interesting comparing him and his apologies and things like that to a lot of the other apologies or non-apologies we get from some people. I think it's really interesting. I mean, look at all of the allegations that have been levied against Brad Pitt as a husband, as a father, etc. Um, and that guy's still like in at least a couple movies every year. uh, is that you guys think that's pretty privilege? Do you think that that's just his name is so big it's hard to ever truly cancel someone that big? Do you guys think that um, Andrew Callahan deserves to be rehabilitated and rehabilitate himself and hopefully come out of this whole situation a better person? Does he deserve that? Do people who hurt people the way that he hurt people, do they deserve that at all? It definitely has been something really interesting because I keep thinking about the two current canceled Andrews, Tate and Callahan, and comparing them. Not necessarily directly. I mean, there's a world between the allegations against both. So it's impossible to really compare them directly. But the social kind of reaction against them, I think, is really interesting to see the difference in between. Some people are marvelously consistent in their beliefs on this thing. But as soon as I heard about what's strange is I definitely notice inconsistencies in my own behavior, my own beliefs, with Andrew Tate, I thought it was really interesting the questions it raised in me once I, had my little victory lap in my head, this fucking guy, he's going to Romanian prison. And then I was like, well, who are you? Who are you really? When you are celebrating the incarceration of any people. I think if you've been watching this for any amount of time, you know that prison abolition is something that I truly believe in. And I think that there are many ways that we can better deal with all crime and all issues we face as a society that don't involve carceral punishment and penal kind of punishment, let alone capital punishment, right? So, like, what part of reparations, repair, what part of rehab do these men deserve? How could you rehabilitate a person like Andrew Tate? I think Andrew Callahan is an interesting, in this instance, is an interesting comparison because he has obviously jumped right into trying to rehabilitate, himself from these past beliefs, and as his own admission, his current kind of realizations of these toxic patterns of behavior that he was displaying and not able to see from a outside perspective. Didn't see it in himself until it was pointed out to him on the internet, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. I think that's really valuable. As I mentioned, I had some really rough years in my alcoholism. I definitely hurt a lot of people. If I haven't directly given apologies, it's because a lot of those people don't want to be bothered with my presence and don't want to be reminded of the pain that I caused them and are living their best lives, and me interrupting them to try and get some kind of release from the anxiety I feel over my past is inappropriate. It is self-centered and it is selfish. And so it's not something that I'm going to do. Some people that I am closer to definitely have heard me profusely apologize, and most of those people, never needed that apology in the first place. And I've heard this firsthand that, when I saw how much you were doing to be a better person, that was the apology that they needed. When they saw me trying to rehabilitate effectively. And this meant in the literal sense of rehabilitating from my alcoholism, but also being a better person as well, which a lot of it did go hand in hand. I was using alcohol in a way that made me feel I could get away with certain things that I wouldn't let myself get away with, because I would get so blackout that I wouldn't even remember doing it until somebody reminded me, and I would. At first, the first year, 2 years, I think I would laugh, in those kinds of situations. Like, I was watching a comedy, thinking about it like, wow, that was real wild, haha. I can't believe that guy that isn't me would do that. Because when I'm that blacked out, I'm almost completely disassociated, almost like watching myself in the third person. Um, yeah. Uh, so yeah, I think about this a lot. Like I think, as I was saying, Andrew Callahan is showing signs that he is um, committed to rehabilitating himself from these behaviors and change himself, so that he is not putting other people in that position where they have to deal with all of the pain that he's caused in the past. Whereas Andrew Tate, how? How do you rehabilitate him? Especially without like state power. If you think about it, it's really strange. All of the kind of sentiments that I heard around his imprisonment were about like assumptions made about a prison system within Eastern Europe, assuming that it is much worse than our own. When in fact, if you look into the Romanian prison system, it is remarkably similar to our own. It is probably better. Which makes me think, a lot of, especially socialist countries in Europe, do have much more social programs set up to help people rehabilitate and not uh, end up back in the prison system again, especially for people who are addicted, things like that. Those kinds of essentially victimless crimes in most cases. Those are, I think, easier fixes. But something like Tate, I mean, does he deserve rehabilitation is also a question I'm curious about, Like, I'm not in favor of capital punishment, and as I was saying, capital punishment or, any kind of um, penal or carceral system, especially because in this country and in most countries that those systems are incredibly, well, biased, systemically racist, etc. They have huge problems with corruption, which is why they aren't worth trusting. And even when they are done as best as they possibly can be, it is still a dehumanizing uh, process, position to be put in as a member of a society. Uh, you are taken out of that society, and I think there are good arguments for doing that. And I think Andrew Tate is one of the many kind of that you could look at like, well, yeah, we there are people being trafficked by this human being. We have to put them somewhere where we can get these people to safety and make sure that they are okay before he has any chance of like hurting them again. Uh, it does like there's an instinctual kind of feeling that I think most of us have about this. It's like once you have done that kind of harm to a person, throw them out. Throw them away. We don't want them in our society, and I think that that's super fucking valid on an emotional level, especially. Like, it's hard to, especially when not given any kind of model for how a better system could work. It's hard to not feel that way when you see no or very few examples of better ways to deal with uh, that kind of crime or criminal behavior that causes so much widespread damage. It's it's hard to think about, but also, you have to recognize that, white collar criminals are never put in the same position as Andrew Tate, and they do crimes that are, in my opinion, far worse. Um, Not that I think any of those crimes are super comparable, but when you look at the level of damage done to a society by white collar criminals, insider trading, things like that that only serve to make the capitalist class more and more wealthy and oppress and suppress the working classes. I think it's, we see and we know viscerally the violence that was caused by people like Andrew Tate. But I think me comparing them could be shocking for you to hear, because the pain that is caused by white collar criminals is so much more invisible. Or maybe not invisible, but ignorable. Maybe that's not even the right word. Maybe what I'm trying to say is that these crimes are so commonplace, so widespread, and so normalized in our society that it's almost like we don't feel like there's anything we can do about it. Whereas this is concrete, physical, visceral violence, and we want to stop that. I think that's, these are beautiful instincts to have. But it does bring up a lot of questions, and has me thinking quite a bit about all of this. Because yeah, my instinct emotionally, absolutely, when I heard Andrew Tate got clapped, was celebration and haha, fuck that guy. Because I fucking hate that fucking loser misogynist. I hate that fucking guy. I've never met him, and I don't think I ever want to. You know what I mean? And he's bragged about the violence that he caused to people, the harm that he did. He's bragged about it and is proud of it. I want him to suffer on a level, on an emotional level. But what is that doing for us as a society? Taking one terrible person out, that terrible person did so much damage in spreading his influence while he was here. How do we negotiate that? How do we deal with that damage? In the same way that we were talking about white collar crime a moment ago, where it's a little bit more hard to see. It's hard to see the damage caused by the propaganda of people like Andrew Tate or Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is probably a less great example because of his recent legal cases are making making very clear how his propaganda hurt people. But that's the exception and not the rule. Anyway, a lot to think about. I would love to hear any thoughts y'all have. I've just been rambling on about this for half an hour. Well, yeah, if you thought Romanian prisons were worse than ours, you were wrong. I'm sorry to tell you. They aren't. Our prisons are among the worst on this planet. I think a lot of people don't know that. So, not to mention the biggest. Not to mention turned into a private industry so that it can be profited on. Not to mention that it's a continuation of enslavement, as written into the 13th Amendment, etc., 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 and on and on and on. It needs to be abolished. There needs to be other ways to deal with crime, how to deal with social conflict of all kinds. What's happening here is not working and never has. Not in any equitable way, not in any rational, logical, the ways that we are told by lawyers and judges and politicians that it is a farce. It is a lie. Very few people have ever been helped by having a prison term. Very few people on the planet. And only those people would say that. The only people that would say that are people who did it to spite the prison industrial complex in a way that they had to put themselves together while they were in lockup, which we should be celebrating those people because that is nigh on impossible. I don't think he would want to be mentioned, but I had a friend who was locked up for a long time for some silly stuff he did when he was a teenager. And I am super proud of that person. He is an amazing human being and is now a loving father and husband and has changed the trajectory of his life by his own force of will, of desire to be a force for good on the planet, to be reductive and maybe a little bit naive sounding, but yeah, had nothing to do with the state, had nothing to do with the penal system. It was my friend being the person we all knew him to be the entire time he was in there, and we're all worried that this place that changes so many would change him too. I've known plenty of people who didn't come out of that system in a way that their lives are on a better path now. I know a lot of people who aren't around anymore. Because of repeated incarcerations and things like that, being taken away from their children for silly, petty little crimes that were simply at the cause of their own survival. And we should be upset about this. We should see the inhumanity in locking people up behind bars, not attending to them, not making sure that they were better off for this period away from the rest of society, not ignoring the facts, the very real reality that everybody knows that once you are in, you are almost positively going to end up in social circles where the level of crime is much more potential for getting elevated rather than reduced. Whether it be drugs, gangs, etc. These things are super, super common in lockup. Anyway, yeah, I just keep talking about this because it is really upsetting to me. It is something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. I hate cops. I hate prisons. And I think that there are innumerable better ways that have been written about for centuries that we just are not motivating the political class to do anything about changing it. And there's many things like that, not just prison, not just police in this country. There are so many aspects of our society where the populace is trying to get things willed into action, policies changed and constructed to make lives better for all of us, and our elected representatives could not care fucking less. Because they're monsters. They're inhuman monsters. They are capitalists, which is a synonym. They are neoliberals, another synonym for inhuman monster. And that is, by and large, going to be the battle of most of our lives, whether or not we know we're a part of it. So, at a certain point, you have to just strap on the boots and dig in, be part of this conflict that has been going on for decades and decades in this country, that is so easy to look past. This paint is just about dry, and I've been waxing philosophically for an hour or something. It feels like I'm sure it feels even longer to you. Hope I didn't scare you away. But either way, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. And we'll talk about something a little lighter, maybe, huh? What do you think? Let me know in the chat. But for now, I'll see you in about 15. So we are back. Thank you for sticking around with us. I have been painting this mask for a little while now, and we're gonna just keep painting away here. Still figuring out kind of what I'm doing with this color. I kind of like the blue now that it's dried. I don't know how well you can see that, but dope. Yeah, I'm liking it. I wasn't sure how I would feel, but now that it's a little dry, kind of a fan. I'm just kind of taking the brush strokes out by running my finger over the surface with some water on it, kind of like I've been doing with all the sculpting on this. Because I want to preserve that texture that we gave it in the first place. Keep that consistent through the piece. I don't want any big ridges that you can kind of see the strokes of it. I want it to feel very seamless. Cool. All right. I'm loving this. Okay. How's this silver holding up? Oh, beautiful. Okay. Tester on the back. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure about this warm silver. I don't know if I like it. We're all getting so much warmth from the gold and the copper. And the green is such a cool green that it's hard for me to... I just don't want to put too much contrast there, you know what I mean? Both in temperature and in color. Um, hmm. Yeah, I think the silver is just too warm. Do I have another silver? I don't think I do. Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is my paint pen. But paint pen is definitely not going to work on this surface and doesn't necessarily sit on a uh, palette for very long before it dries out. So it's not what we want for this situation, as much as the color of it is better. Do I have, maybe I have a little bit of soap. No, I used that a long time ago. Okay. Hey, no, no, no. Little guy, knock it off. Almost. He's he's still learning. Today he just wanted to eat the cable. His papa came and got him. Do a tester, Weston. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna like that. Okay. I'm gonna hit these lips with this purple. Just go for it. Oh, do I want to add? No, I don't want to add any of the black lava stuff to this. I'm just going right over. I'm not gonna think about it too much. Oh, I actually really love this purple on here. I might do a lot more with this purple. Maybe just leaving it for the lips would make it stand out. No. We shall see. No, yeah. Of course green and purple look good together. Look at all of the icons that do green and purple in their color scheme. So it's definitely one of those color schemes that I utilize often in my work. I'm gonna have to get a little bit sharper of a brush to do the need to do something in between the lips. I'm noticing that like looking at it in certain lights, you're definitely just going to see the green inside, and that's not what I want. Oh man. Sorry, I had my own little joke. I keep thinking about White Lotus, and I was thinking about F. Murray Abraham's character. Oh man. I was saying earlier, Jennifer Coolidge made me like a very rich person, because her portrayal is so wonderful. She's so great in that role. That role is so well written, etc. But then I was like, F. Murray Abraham, also a type of person I probably wouldn't like in real life, but the way the character is written, the way the character is portrayed by the actor, absolutely incredible. Just super talented cast of people. And also Mike White, like I can't help it, but I always think of Mike White as Ned Schneebly. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Mike White. And it's wild to me. He like when I found out he did The White Lotus, like it's just like I know he's directed. I know he was a writer at the time, but like it's just so not Ned Schneebly, you know what I mean? And it's just the way that I associate with that guy. On that level, so funny. Yeah. I guess a lot of it with the F. Murray Abraham thing, I think a lot of it is just he reminded me of like my dad. If you've seen White Lotus, I think that's like the point of the character. It's a lot of our dads, um, just a old horny misogynist. And like, yeah, like I was saying, it's not necessarily a person I would want to spend a lot of time with in real life, but man. F. Murray Abraham is just one of the greats of our time, and often relegated to that area of acting, like where he's a character actor in a lot of things. And not that that's a bad place to be by any means, especially for so many talented people, but oftentimes it kind of like feels like you get a lot less recognition. Um, for your talent when it's almost like your entire career. There's some people who can just uh, I don't want to say be untalented, but there are people like that exist in the industry and like they work still. And so like it's almost like it's a given uh, for a lot of the character actor kind of actors that uh, that's what they're supposed to do is be good at their job, not like these other people that everyone can tell they're one of they have no business being in the industry. Any person living and breathing can see that there is just no life or naturalism coming from these portrayals that they are being paid a lot of money to do. No. It's never a good time to be an artist, is it? I was gonna say, it's a tough time to be an artist, and in just about every medium of art you could possibly be an artist in. You know what I mean? Sure, sure. Um, but yeah, it's never really been a good time to be an artist, and especially, I can't imagine. Like, I just think a lot about younger people who have the same ambitions and interests that I had when I was their age, and who want to be uh, paid, and want to work, want to provide their specialized labor to a very specific kind of work, and knowing like that's just um, like it's always like even like so I'm thinking back to being a young person, especially like sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, and really thinking about like being told, in a few short, in just a little bit, you're going to be, doing your own thing in the world. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And, knowing then that, I mean, this wasn't going to be anywhere close to easy. I was living in Reading. I never thought I would be where I am right now. Like, that's genuinely honest. Like, I never thought I would be able to move to Los Angeles and pursue acting like in a real way, you know. Um, but all the same, like I still knew that this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do, and no one could dissuade me. I knew this is 2000 to 2005 is when I went to high school, and like I knew then that this was going to be exceptionally difficult, one of the hardest, most rarefied kind of jobs there are to get on the planet, Uh, and I think about young people now in that same position, and even though we're this was like the beginning of that. If you're graduating from high school right now, you're leaving high school in a recession, which is exactly where my graduating class was. Um, that'll be 20 years in a couple. I mean, it's 18 years ago I graduated high school, something like that. Um, pretty wild. Okay, I guess it's cave at the time. Okay. Yeah, and I just think about how those kids are, remarkable. People thinking about that choosing this lifestyle right now. Those people are incredibly brave, knowing that there's very even little. I guess I would argue less of a chance of making it in this industry than when I graduated. Um, the way that media has shifted in the last, uh, I mean, couple of decades, but even focusing on just the last few years, depending on what kind of art you do, the hurdles just are getting higher and closer together. Um, like, yeah, it's just I got nothing but respect for people who are willing to put it all on the line like that. It's not easy. That's a real artist, especially, if you're not rich, if you don't come from a family that's already in the industry, your chances are even lower. Especially with, as I've talked about before in broadcasts, the prevalence and advancement of I'm trying to move away from saying AI art, because we all know it's not artificial learning art. It's not really doing that at all. It's algorithmic art. It's art that is stealing from other artists. It makes it, yeah, I can't imagine, like it's hard enough thinking about it for myself, from my own perspective, where it's like, I'm an artist of a bunch of different mediums, and like, just think about since that broadcast I did where I talked about AI art, how much more I've started going back into physical art. This wasn't like intention. This is just fear, maybe, knowing that no one can replicate this. No machine is able to do what I'm doing right here. There is something intrinsically valuable to that. Moving away from digital isn't something that I want to do. I enjoy digital, and I'm able to do things in digital that I can't do here. You know what I mean? But, like, in a way, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that my art will be confused for AI art or used in its exploitative algorithm, stolen from me. And I know that that's very different from how most of this AI art works, but it's come here. That's so silly. But yeah, it's yeah, definitely a thing I've been thinking about a lot. And while I didn't like start revisiting physical mediums because of AI art necessarily, like by any intention, it's definitely something that I haven't really done a lot of digital art for weeks at this point. I'm not motivated to do it. I feel like I have less passion for it. And it's not something that like I really thought about until a few days ago. Like where I was like, wow, I haven't really done a lot of. I think part of it is that it's just it's also tied to a lot of the social media stuff that um, I focused on for a long time, and still just feel like you're starting to feel like it's just a waste of my time and effort. Um, like I could be making art, and I enjoy social media, and I like creating independently, making art in different ways. Using the format of uh, uh, the different sites to produce things might that I might not have created if it wasn't for those platforms. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of disappointment and also a lot of time. Um, and yeah, work. I mean, to say that you have you're present on social media, you are regularly posting. That's hours of your time getting some of those posts ready to go. That's um, in some cases, it's if you're putting together an account that is super streamlined and does a lot of the same thing, that can be like an entire job's worth of hours, 40 or so a week, just another job on top of the one you're already doing, and you're not getting paid for it unless you're a handful of people that have that have accounts that are able to be monetized enough to help pay your rent and your bills and things like that. So yeah, it's something I've been thinking a lot about. I haven't been doing a lot of digital art because of it. AI art did kind of just suck all of the fun out of digital art for me for the last little bit. I don't know, like, it's something I'm super into revisiting. I guess only time will tell. Like, I have a bunch of unfinished pieces that I'm sure I will finish one day, but I definitely needed a little time away from it. Ooh. There we go. Getting some dark blue together because I like this purple a lot, and I want to help it stand out on these lips. Probably should be getting the fresh brush to do this with, but we're gonna take a look. Take a chance of this. Give it a little shot. Need to sharpen up my tip here. No, that's not gonna work. Yeah, we're gonna have to grab a new brush. Oh, watch, this water's gonna change real fast. That's a very, very heavy pigment. Nice little brush. We're gonna have to get into some crevasses. Oh, this thing's a lot tighter than I thought it was. That's good. That's fine. Yeah. In hindsight, I probably should have done this first, but I didn't know we needed it. So this is gonna be okay. Just means we have to go back over some of the purple we've already applied, where I didn't stay in between the lines. I was never that kind of artist, especially not as a kid. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, looking at it, I am glad I did this. This color is going to work marvelously with this purple. Here, I'll give you a look. It's messy. It's not going to be the final, but you can see how this blue is interacting with this purple. Delicious. And I'm still thinking about doing a little bit of yellow on the top, just really solid color. Huh. Let's see how this works. I'm gonna try and put it on my palette knife and just shove some paint in there. That might actually be wonderful. Oh, that actually is working. Holy shit. Okay. I was doubtful, but it's working. What a fucking month, dude. Not even half over. This thing's practically a dental tool, man. What happens when I do this? This is now just a wet water brush. That might help it coat into all the little crevices that I can't get with the other shorter brush or with the palette knife. It also might oopsie. It also might oopsie. Actually, that worked really well. Alright, but it does mean we have some cover-up work to do, and we have to do it kind of expeditiously. Fast. Why did I use that word? Who the fuck uses that word, Weston? Expeditiously. Like I went to college. I mean, I did, sorta. Junior college. That's how I met our producer. Yeah. But I didn't go for long. I was never a good student. I wish I had been, because obviously I like knowing shit. Schools just suck at teaching. Isn't that funny? Kind of ass. Like D tier kind of shit, you know? Probably should have let that layer dry before I tried to blend it, because it's acrylic, but it's gonna be okay. You can always go back on it later. There are better, smarter, faster, stronger ways to do this that I'm gonna give it a shot at right now. Just laying some of the color I want near where I need to blend it, and I will use a new brush to blend it in. Keep that color Coming in nice and strong. I'm leaving only the blue where I want it. Alright. This is one of those do you believe in magic? Clap your hands kind of moments. Or it sometimes be like that. Damn. Speaking of which, I don't know if any of y'all watch Kaz Rowe, but they're a video essayist you can find on the YouTubes. Just Kazrowe. And they do such incredible work. I just watched one of their video essays on Peter Pan, and holy shit, I learned quite a bit that I did not know about not just the character, but the portrayals over the years of that character. And man, has a lot of kind of modern critique and analysis of that character been so wrong. I guess wrong is not probably the way to put it, but I think Kaz Rowe did a really fantastic job contextualizing a lot of this stuff, rumors and so forth that we've heard about J.M. Barrie and the character Peter and a lot of the stuff that, I think most of us think of it from the perspective of the Disney film, which pretty fucking wrong, pretty bad. A lot of stuff in that version of that story that I think gives a lot of people a bad taste for the character. Fairly, I don't, can't begrudge them. It's it's all over the place in that movie, the racism, the misogyny, etc. But yeah, Peter actually has a pretty long legacy of being portrayed by queer women that one of the first Peter Pan's interpretations of that story that I watched was the Mary Martin one. No, I don't believe Mary Martin is a queer woman, but yeah. Anyway, I could go on. Definitely just want to recommend Kaz Rowe's work. They're one of the best around. There we go. I did take off, so this brush was a little wet. I did take off some of the layers I want to keep there. But, okay. Just needed a little time to dry before I started going as hard as I should have, or as I should have given it more time to dry before I went as hard into it as I did, but who cares? Right? Yeah, we're set. Thank you, Sam. Just having a wee think. Thought this dark blue might mix well into some of the silver or gray, or the light blue even. Give it a little more pop, but to be honest, it's not really working. Honestly, that's one of the real benefits to having one of these like whiteboard material palettes is you don't have to worry about it like warping when it's wet, like a lot of wood one. Pardon me. A lot of the wood ones. Or like I've seen cardboard and stuff. I mean, I used to use like paper plates and stuff like that for palettes. For a long time I did that. And then eventually I was like, not a crusty 20 something and started using real plates, which I already had. I just didn't do dishes enough to actually be able to use them on a regular basis because I was a scumbag. But yeah, so I stopped having the paper plates for pallets around, which meant I had to figure out another way to another place to put paint. And yeah, that's I think around the time when I got this thing. Palette paper I was using for a while works really well too, but definitely can't do this with it. Yeah, and cardboard, like I was saying, I was doing for a while as well because we had a lot of we were both working in service jobs, so there was always plenty of cardboard around we could steal from work, take out of the dumpster, or never just put in the dumpster and be like, I'm taking this home. Anyway, yeah. So we always had a lot of that stuff, but yeah, things change. And for the better. I love this thing. Yeah, I'm just dilly-dallying. I don't know exactly what I want to do next. Really a fan of how this turned out. I was a little bit worried about the lips, but pretty fire. No, I should show you. Here, I'll actually lay it flat because I am still trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Oh, this gives me another perspective. Okay. Oh, could I get the time? Thank you. I needed to figure out what I was going to be. That helps me figure out what to do for this rest of this stream. So, another 45, y'all. I've been itching to mix up more of this copper basically all day. It's one of my favorite colors. I haven't been able to stop looking at it in the off time since last stream. But it's such a bold color. Hard to think about where to put it. Yeah. The blue still taking its time drying, so I don't want to interrupt that process by adding more paint to the mix. I keep thinking about throwing something in the bridge of the nose here, but I don't want it to interrupt any of the other color around it. I don't want it to draw too much focus. Part of me keeps thinking about throwing in color on top of the eyebrow kind of ridge that I've put in over the eyes. Not entirely sure. Maybe that's where I should put that color. And it would almost draw you back into the fins on the side. So it would go like over the top here, and it would just draw itself right into that same area. Wonder if that would work. Might be too much. It'll look good. I should just do it. Not think too much of it. That's for people who do math. Or something. I wouldn't know. Yeah. I think this is gonna work great. Let's just do it. You know what? I have to make a little room on my palette though. Let me quit. Just scrape, scrape, scrape. Again, these shirts are for sale. I have 3 different painting shirts, all from different sessions, with a little bit different colors on them. So if you know my palette, you know it's pretty consistent. But yeah, they will be unwashed, both for the piece not being, both for artistic reasons and for other reasons. Yes, you can DM me on any of the social medias to inquire. Oh, I got a big old paint coin. Oh, delicious. Add that to the collection. Oh, okay. All right, Crimson, I hear you. You wanted to come out. Ooh, so did the copper. Ooh, got another little. Ooh, this is gonna be a fun one. Let's get that out of there. I'm gonna have to use a palette knife. It's really thin in some places, really thick in others. There. That one. It was really stuck on there. It'd break a bunch, but we got it. Okay. Mixing paint. Mixing different. Yeah. Let's use this one. Oh wow, there's something very 49ers-y about these two colors going as I'm mixing it. Yeah. Shouts out to all the Bay Area sports heads that I know and love, even though I think you're weird. So am I. Yeah, yeah. Sam saying they were brought up in a Bay Area sports household, but didn't pick it up themselves. And same, even when I was watching sport, I was my dad was a big Dodgers fan, um, and big oh man, he didn't like football that much. Actually, my football team growing up, the one that I really liked was the Cowboys. Don't ask me why. I genuinely don't know. But that was the one that I really liked. And my family hated that. Nobody liked the Cowboys because they were all 49ers fans. Yeah, I to this day I don't really get what my fascination ever was with it. It's not like my thing. Um and no, sure. I yeah, I guess it was just never like I really liked basketball. That was the one sport that I actually really liked. Everyone else just like it's one of those things. I think that's it. You mentioned indoctrination. I think that was a lot of why I didn't actually enjoy it. I knew it was kind of just expected of me as someone who was born and socialized as male. That it was something that I knew was kind of like expected that I like sports, especially in my family where it was such like a big thing. Not that anyone played; they all just were avid spectators, let's say. Exactly. Yeah. So, um, so yeah, I think that's ultimately why I ended up picking like these random kind of teams that I didn't really care about. I didn't even really watch the games. I just knew that I was uh, have one and expected to care. And that's ultimately why I didn't ever, why at a certain point I stopped caring. Um, Especially like in high school when I first kind of started figuring myself out, what I liked, what I didn't like, what was expected of me, and all that stuff. That's what I was saying. The longest the sport that I enjoyed the longest was basketball. I think I actually, to an extent, still like basketball in a way. Um, just it's not something I really enjoy. Like it's not like the people aren't incredibly gifted and talented, and I would argue, maybe there's a lot to do with like how the organizations that uh, are ran that I disagree with and dislike and has driven me away from it. But that's not entirely true either. I think well, ultimately it's a lot more complicated. But yeah, um, yeah, and I would say that I would attribute it to the organizations and the issues they have, but I still like combat sports. That's the kind of sports that I still do watch. Um, I never like I never thought I would be saying that. Though, definitely recently, kind of even having a hard time enjoying that, unfortunately. Um, and that is predominantly because of how the organizations are run. UFC specifically. I mean, Dana White's always been a nasty little chud. But now he's like caught on camera at a New Year's Eve party, hitting his wife, and makes it even more difficult to let go of and accept that you can't change any of the major problems that the organization has beside that, Like, it's not like I didn't have serious issues with the organization and the things that and people that it tended to promote. But yeah, it's harder to not be mad. It's harder not to be upset. It's harder to enjoy that, knowing what they're willing to let slide, I guess. Just too bad. And unfortunately, it's not even something that's exclusive to that organization. Most combat sports have some pretty troubling issues that it's hard to ignore. Yeah. So I think I've talked about multiple times on this podcast, when this topic comes up, because I think I've brought it up at least a few times, the combat sports stuff that I enjoy. But I want to just shout out Southpaw Podcast. They're super inspiring and definitely one of the reasons that, like, I have hope for the future of combat sports, because they do such incredible work at kind of drawing direct parallels that they and a lot of their collaborators see in martial arts and leftism, leftist philosophy, Marxism, etc. Yeah, they do really incredible work, and definitely makes me feel less insane for having these criticisms when so many people kind of just wave their hands, or worse. I mean, yeah, actually, yeah, I remember I was talking about this recently when our friend from Brazil showed up in the chat. I don't know if they're here today, but we were talking about Bolsonaro and how he's currently living in UFC fighter Jose Aldo's Florida home, where I don't know if he's out of the hospital and back there or what, but at the time he was. But yeah, if you know Bolsonaro at all, he's a fascist. So just to give you an example of the kind of things that community deals with, not to mention like their platforming of many other right-wing agitators, not Aldo specifically, but the UFC, and more specifically Dana White, of course Joe Rogan, who's been a commentator for the UFC for a long portion of his career. So yeah, yeah, I just, I think there's something that is both like kind of nostalgic for me about combat sports, um, but it doesn't just go to like, I watched boxing with my dad, and that definitely was why, for a while I thought that that was why I was so um, intrigued with the sport or sports that comprise the genre or whatever of combat sports. Um, but yeah, it's so much more than that. It's like, I mean, there was a pretty heavy portion of my life where violence was something I expected to happen. It shouldn't have, but it did. And there was also a big portion of my life that I was trying to learn martial arts. Um, not like for a couple of years when I was really young, we were still living in Santa Rosa before my folks split up. I was taking a couple of like American karate kind of classes. Nothing that really stuck, of course, but it was something that I was interested in. And of course, when we moved, there was no like money for that kind of thing. Um, but I also really enjoyed like you'd see the the movements of different kinds of martial arts through video games or movies, and stuff like that was always really fascinating to me. There's something really beautiful about it, the control that it takes of your body to be able to do kinds of things like Jackie Chan or I saw like Jet Li doing, people like that, or when I was older, Tony Yaw. There's a there's a real beauty to that kind of movement that is both beautiful, um, but can serve purpose. It's like a lot of art that I enjoy, where it's not just pretty portrait or something. It serves a purpose. And you could argue, and I do regularly, that all art does this. Just some is very intentional about it. Some is not. You heading out? All right, man. You have a good night. Yeah, I was Scott heading out, and a little. Actually, I think it's both of them. Yeah, it's both of them. They're both out of his room at the moment. You gotta see this little guy. He's been itching his forehead so much lately. I think it's the change in humidity from the summer to the where he was born to the cold weather, rainy weather. Can I pick you up? No, he doesn't want to be picked up right now. But anyway, he's little like right in front of his ears. They're looking real patchy right now. And a couple of days ago, he had little scabs on it. He'd been picking at it a bunch. Poor little goober. Yeah, I'm talking about you, you poor little goober. Yeah, you and your weird bald spots. Okay. Big fan of what's happening over here. Let me give you a peek. So I gotta fix the asymmetry in it just a hair, but I'm really into what's happening. Hey! It works well with the gold and everything under the eyes. I think it works really well leading into the areas, little fins behind. I like how this is looking. I'm really liking this. Okay. Now that purple's probably dry, so we're going to take a look at trying to fuck this up. Fuck it up by making it better. That's what we're doing. The whole blending thing is working much better than it was earlier. Picking up more blue than I thought I would still, but I think shoving it in there into that crevice with the palette knife is the cause for that. That's okay. Hey, what are you doing, little man? He's under the table, like, biting at my hand. Which part? Oh, monster. Day? This little guy. Oh, and here's the big one. What are you doing? Sorry, I should, like, bring the camera with me when I start talking to cats. Yeah, right. Huh. Hey, you get down. Go. So sneaky. Goodness. Okay, sorry. I will stop getting up and talking to cats. It might be more compelling than me complaining about combat sports. Who knows? What do you think? Let me know in the chat. Especially when they're jumping up and trying to eat my hands. Hard to ignore that. Need to switch my other brush. Okay. All right. No. Oh, yeah, I got distracted. Forgot what I was doing. I'm still working on the lips. That's okay. I need to go back into the eyebrows too. There we go. That's pretty damn good. All right. Saber. Do you hear him? He brought me a toy. He got this for Christmas. It's a little stocking. All right, Sam. You want to go get it? Sam. Sam. Go get it. He just likes to bring it, I guess. He used to do like a whole kitty version of Fetch. We don't do that game no more. I don't know why. Ever since little brother came in the picture, he stopped being as playful. I don't know what happened, but it definitely reminds me of human brotherly dynamics that I have seen and participated in. Little man, don't jump on the paint. Do not jump on the paint. Oh, are you gonna jump on my shoulder though? Here, you know what? You can come up on my shoulder. Come on. Come on. Okay. You do like being on the shoulder. Let's see if he's gonna be peaceful and sweet or if he's gonna try and claw my face. He has yeah, the only way to wear fur. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Sam Brew. I don't know if you can see this, but he's got two back paws. Oh, he's all okay. Now he's got all sorts of me again. Oh! Oh no, little buddy. Oh, did you get paint on your foot? Oh, this guy. I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown. Oh. Okay, yeah, I keep getting distracted by these cats. I think it is probably close to time. I mean, so it's close to wrap up time anyway. Okay, we got a lot done today. I might go into this a little bit in this evening, or maybe even in the next couple of days, depending on what happens in my apartment building. Who knows what's next? I'm gonna try and get back on my Instagram lives every day to sell some of the old books, comics, and uh, uh, clothes and magic cards and our old paintings. Give me go join me there at Lava Submersible. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok under that handle. Yeah, I could really use any support that you are able to give. I certainly don't want you to feel any pressure to do so, but you can also give to me directly through my Venmo, which should be available as a link right there on the screen for you. And thank you, anybody watching on YouTube. We appreciate your support there as well. Yeah, I will probably be continuing my fundraising drive into March. We still have not found like regular income ultimately. Trying to get back to some level of stability, and yeah, I think we're getting close. It's tough. LA is a big city, and being stable is sometimes just like a momentary fleeting thing, and you just have to roll with the punches and keep going. So, yeah, I just want to say, everyone watching, wherever you're watching, I and everyone at Nerdcrafty really appreciate you and your support in every way that you were able to provide it for us. Obviously, like, no person making content out here has any reason to do it but for the people watching. We're all starved for attention and desperate for you to tell us how great we are in whatever way that you're able to do that. And yeah, so in my case, yeah, in our case at Nerdcrafty, we just really appreciate you. We are a very small channel, so any help that you're able to provide, either as I mentioned previously, or just sharing our content, commenting, subscribing on all the platforms and things like that, are huge for us. So thank you, and we would thank you for doing so. Other than that, I just want to say thank you again for watching, and hope that you are in a good place. I hope that you are taking care of yourself, and I hope you're taking care of each other out there. I know that it is tough, and we're not going to get through this alone. So take care of yourself, take care of each other, and good journey.